people here and supportive. Like we like to really dig into these other projects and just especially Solana projects and what's good for the ecosystem, what's good for the community, and anything that's good is fair game. So, and always checking out other chains too, and just talking about anything that's good. So nothing's really off limits. Anyway, good to have you, man. So. Yeah, Bitcoin, we talked, I don't know, it's been probably 2, 3 weeks actually now since I've been here. So I've been out of town and had some family stuff come up. So I appreciate you guys being patient. But so that was probably right in this area when we were really starting to pump. And I was telling everybody, hey, don't worry too much. We're going to probably get at least a pullback back down to this pivot, which we did. We blasted right back off pretty much after we touched the pivot, and then we blasted into this weekly resistance, and we did take that out, but just barely. And so now it looks like it's been squeezing us back down a little bit. So I put in a couple new entries. I posted this in trading. And so if you can't see it, I've got some entries in and around 23.5. I've got another entry down here with some daily support at around 22,350. And then I've got kind of my final entry at weekly support in and around 21.8. 21.8 could very quickly just be gone because basically this red line down here would be my stop loss on any of these lower two entries. It's 21.8, 21.5 stop losses is probably not worth taking at that point. So I don't have this as just an open order, but I do have my entry 2 open right now. So open bid. As long as we stay above the 50 DMA on Bitcoin, I'm perfectly happy and continue to be bullish. So if we drop below it or wick maybe within 2% below the 50 DMA, I think we'll retrace that and we'll probably make a move lower. So, but until then, I'll remain cautiously optimistic that we'll keep going forward. We got hung up here also at this, I think this 200-week MA. So yeah, that's been a challenge, right? We haven't closed above it at all. We've only wicked above it and came back down on the daily. So 200-week moving average seems to be a little bit of resistance for Bitcoin. So we'll see if we can reclaim that, maybe here in maybe the next couple of weeks. So I would say, we're getting a little closer to the end of the month. We're at the 23rd right now. So I'd say, just the way that things are shaping up, I mean, I would expect the monthly pivot or, kind of that average to print somewhere in this 23 number. So even if we do go above or below where we're at right now, I would expect some sort of a pullback towards the end of the month or beginning of next month into this 23 range. Unless we just blast off from here and change that average. But it looks as we're kind of closing in, maybe in this last week. That's approximately where we would see this kind of start to land. So we'll blast out of there. S&P, we're above this, mega line of support that, we thought was, or excuse me, of resistance that we thought was, just going to take us down forever. We jokingly called this the barfing dragon pattern, and it's on top now. So we'll see how that fares. I think if it drops back below this this line here, then we've got some more downside pain here. So I'd marked 3,400 quite some time ago just to kind of mark these pre-COVID highs. So, but yeah, just keeping an eye out, watching it. Dollar index. I'm sure Dennis could probably touch on this as well, but dollar index, I mean, we were kind of seeing if we could get some support resistance in and around these, 2016 and the pre-COVID highs and it just didn't really react a whole lot on either one of those numbers. So kind of watching the fibs, the 618 fib is kind of lining up with some daily support there. So we'll see if we stop in and around 105. So if we stop in and around 105 and we don't break above that, we might see a move back down, maybe back towards this 100-ish range. So we'll see how it kind of reacts at this 105 level. And just keep an eye on it, because obviously as we kind of move up here, generally speaking, Bitcoin has a pretty inverse correlation with the dollar index. So as we're shooting up, usually we're going down. If we hit this and we start to make a move back down, I would expect to see crypto probably, catch a little bit of a bid and move back up. So maybe we start to work towards that 200-week moving average again. So Ethereum, just real quick check, video check. I'm trying not to move around too much on my screen. Is the video quality still really bad, or is it fair? Is it manageable? I'll take that as a maybe.
Manageable for
Okay.
me, man. I'm
Okay.
following.
Cool. Cool. Appreciate it. So Ethereum, I ended up, before I'd left again on that last little hiatus that I was on. So I'd marked actually these two entries. Actually, I ended up getting both of them. I marked the pivot because we had got quite a ways away from the pivot at some point. I think about 12%. So I took that as an entry, and I actually took that 1465 as an entry. I ended up getting filled on this, which was really cool because I just literally just ticked the bottom, and that was just some daily support that was feeling somewhat significant in here in the past. So and Ekim said something too about just the Ethereum kind of likes this 1400, 1500, 1600 range. It loves to bounce around in here. So not wrong. So I caught this one and feeling pretty good that I caught a couple of those. There's really good entries in my opinion. So I'm really happy with those two. So bouncing back to Solana. So been a little rough, not gonna lie. So I marked out this last fib move. I actually had it down here, just that this last little wick that we had back a few weeks ago, and this really big line of resistance continues to be a thorn in our side. So we're really waiting for a move above that, but we're tracking pretty closely to Bitcoin, I think, and the broader crypto markets. So this is not a surprise that we're moving back down. I thought we were looking pretty positive after it looked like we may have reclaimed the 200 DMA. And we did not. We were quickly back in, so we were only. But I love this like cross and close above. So I knew we needed a move above that. I know there were a couple of you that were suggesting that it was probably not going to happen. I definitely didn't disagree, but I was just kind of optimistic that if we did break above this line, that we were probably going to catch a pretty big bid. So I would say that we would be looking to catch at least a bit up into this daily support range here, or excuse me, resistance range here, somewhere around 36, without a lot of struggle in between. There's just not a lot going on once we get back above that line. So I'm probably looking to just build portfolio in and around here. I've got a pretty big bid right here at this 1831 number. Don't ask me how I got that number. It just happens to work out to an even amount of Solana in the account that I'm trying to build. So I'm trying to get to some nice round even number. If I don't get it, then I'll just get it some other way. I'll have to spend a little bit more money, I guess. But So I'm shooting for around this 18 number. I think more realistically, if I'm looking to get filled, I probably should be probably in this 18 to 19 number. And this is probably still a little bit low. If Bitcoin continues to stay above um, the 50 MA. I don't know that Solana will actually get that low. It can definitely dip a little bit lower than its own 50 DMA. I think if Bitcoin is just testing its DMA, it's 50 DMA. But this is a little, in my opinion, this is a little bit of a stink bid here. I'm probably a little bit lower than where I could probably catch this, but um, need to try right now. So I pulled about 15% of my position. I think we've talked about it somewhere in this 21 range. So I'm probably just splitting hairs, trying to get a couple percent. But anyway, it's worth it in my opinion because I think we've seen the bottom. So I'm going to skip a couple of these kind of weird charts just since my video quality is not great today, guys. And I'm really sorry about that. I forgot actually, but
no, your video quality for me actually looks amazing right now. Like it cleared up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I said, I need a hard line in. This just obviously this new little office that I built is a little too dense for some wireless activity. So anyway, yes, let's see here. Let's go back to just catch a couple of these that we touched on last week, or maybe, excuse me, a couple weeks ago. Aptos, we put in a couple of markers here for some entries, some re-entries, because we were way up here. Everybody was like, oh, we're going to the moon already. I'm like, we were way up here though on the RSI. We were way up here on a MACD. It was kind of starting to roll over just a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're starting to catch some of these. So we actually already caught two of these. In transparency, I did not take either of these as trade entries. These were just marked as some kind of optimal locations. So we actually caught this 1431 or whatever, which was at the pivot. We caught this little bit at 1238 or somewhere there close to it, which was that before that mega candle there on that daily support range. And the third one that I was hoping to take, which I actually might have taken this entry just on a small position just because, would be to retest this old high in and around $10.30 something. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody sets their bid at $10, and I think guys would probably try to gain it maybe around 10.50 or something like that, just because it's not likely to go back to that super even number. It might, but looking pretty good on them on the MACD, so it's probably it's rolling a little bit right now, and we're in the middle here on the RSI, so I wouldn't expect that it's just gonna tank lower. So I mean, you might catch something down in here if you're lucky, but I don't know how much how much lower you'd want to try to get some of these entries. Yeah, these were just a couple that we had marked the other week. These are kind of boring. Loop ring is actually, if you guys are looking for an entry, it did jump over its pivot, so I would highly suggest that this would actually make a move back down to this 31 cents level. At the very least 33 cents, which is pretty decent move, I'm sure. So that's a 20% move back up to its current price. So that's probably pretty likely. I would this is something I might even look at as just a little short-term position here too, just to grab a little bit of a bag there. I'm gonna cut it off actually, but just because I want to make sure we give everybody some time, and I'm known to ramble and I love charts, so sometimes that's a little scary and can burn up an hour really, really quick. So if anybody has any questions, I'm totally game, but otherwise I'm happy to hand over the mic to Dennis or or Swick Velodrome.
I don't chart, but yeah, man, dude, I love it. I mean, I presented on Trader Fade, so if anybody wants to look into Velodrome and why I'm such a big fan, it's definitely on the latest Trader Fade that was uploaded. So let's check it out on the YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah. There's been some really great calls too on Trader Fade, guys. So if you've not been paying attention, it might be worth paying attention. So I know I've got a list from the guys. I'm not always able to make the Wednesday morning Trader Fade, but I got a list from the guys on their calls for the Trader Fade. So I'm going to try to make sure I have those on my list each week to just check charts on some of those too. So that way, some of the people who are more regular in here in the market sync and maybe can't make the Trader Fade, we'll maybe just retouch on those and maybe look for some good re-entries, especially when it's going up 80% or 50% in a day. We might want to look for some re-entries because you might scare people that we got in too early and now they're too late. So we'll grab some new entries on some of the Trader Fades, and yeah, hope everybody is doing well. Appreciate y'all being here, and I know it's still a little bit of a small group, but it's hit or miss every week. But appreciate everybody who does come, and hopefully you're getting something out of it. And join us in the trading channel if you can. And cool.
Awesome. Who's up next?
I can go if no one else wants to.
Yeah, go for it. Let's see it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll just quickly break down like the totals because I like to kind of get some high time frame analysis on them before just to kind of give me some sort of sentiment on the market. To me, I personally think we're still range bound from like a high time frame standpoint. And it's honestly, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of us touching that 1.8 or 1.18 trillion dollar market cap level for Total One from a high time frame standpoint. This looks like classic range, long-term deviation, very similarly to the Bitcoin chart, right? Usually when you have these high time frame ranges, whenever you zoom in, you can kind of tell that, well, the high time frame range is when you zoom in, it's a range within a range. So, you're sitting here, you're like, okay, well, this is another range you can play. Deviated this high time frame mid range. Now we're kind of chilling, and we just rejected off the mid range of this range. So honestly, and then I'll also use a stochastic RSI, which is not coming up right now. Let's see. Okay. So again, this is the 4 hour. Usually when we get up to this 50 level, recently we just rejected off of this high time frame 0.25 level. So if I were to be a betting man, I would just zoom in and be like, all right, well, this is our range within the 4 hour. All right, we have our key resistance right here. So as long as we hold this range, there's a chance that we could come up and retest this 1.097 trillion. Again, 1 trillion seems to be like a psychological level for crypto to break. Granted, the way S&P is looking, it may or may not happen. Zooming out to the daily time frame again, if you look at this, it's not looking pretty. Again, you want to see this $1 trillion level basically hold as support, and then having a stochastic RSI on the daily time frame curling over this way. It's not really what you want to see. Ultimately, I'm not too sure where we go from here. I don't necessarily buy this aggressive move up. I tried to make that a circle, but I went with an 8. I don't buy it. Doesn't seem like good, healthy market structure to me. And so there's potential that we do. Maybe this is our high, right? We took out we took out this 0.25 on the mid range. Maybe we even go higher. Maybe Bitcoin does go to 28K and we enter this. We hit this high time frame area of consolidation, which is typically a good area to watch out for when it comes to like support resistance. And if we do get up there and we reject, well, if we deviate, right? Let's just say we bounce off the mid range, come up here, come back inside. Usually when in a range bound environment, if this happens, it's more than likely we're going to revisit the range lows. And this low that we have down here aligns really well with this high time frame level, this $744 billion level, which was the peak in 2014. I mean, sorry, 2018. Now, if and when price action were to, or if and when the total were to come back in here, take out this low, re-enter this range, the new range becomes this, right? So this is essentially what would happen if, you know, if equities actually do dump and the bottom's not in, or the housing market crashes or something, the US defaults on their debt. You know, I'm not really sure what happens, but if and when we do come back down here, this mid-range is essentially a place that I'd be looking to bid pretty aggressively. So I'd be very cautious being bullish here. And then especially, again, in range-bound environments, we have a stochastic RSI on the 3-day time frame sitting at this high at an overbought level for crypto. That's not typically what you want to see. I mean, if you look previous times where we've been that high up, usually once we hit a high time frame area of resistance, it's kind of just down only, and it's been that way since the bear market, right? High time frame area of resistance, come down, and you know, even if I were to map out this range here, it's like, okay, cool, high time frame range, 3-day stochastic RSI bottomed, okay, come back down, curled up, high time frame area resistance, deviate the high, come back down, right? So personally, from a long-term standpoint, again, this is the 3-day chart. I'd be very cautious bidding for spot bags again. This is probably the year you want to be DCAing versus relative to last year. And with the Bitcoin halving coming, you know, in the next year and a couple months, your risk to reward, I think, is better over a longer time frame. However, I'm staying away personally. Going to total 2. Again, without Bitcoin, same kind of situation. This is basically how the Ethereum chart looks on the 3-day time frame. If I were to zoom in, again, we're still extremely range bound from like a high time frame standpoint. And again, I mean, the more times we touch this range high, the weaker it gets. So it's very possible that we come back down, and let's just say we're respecting this range here. All right, come back down to this mid range. We have a key low right here. We bounced off of it a couple times here. It's very possible that we do something like this, right? Really trap bulls. Bitcoin goes to 28K. There's some really high time frame resistance up there as well, around 28K, and it would make sense once I show you guys the Bitcoin chart from like a volume standpoint. There's not a lot of volume holding us from 25K to 28K. So that's kind of how I'm seeing total 2 from like a longer time frame perspective. Again, same thing, we're pretty range bound. If and when we break above the range, we're probably going to come into high time frame resistance. If not, then we're probably going to revisit the range low, or at least come back to the mid range. Again, 3-day stochastic RSI, not really what I want to see personally. And then let's go through Bitcoin pretty quickly. Bitcoin to me is pretty simple. We deviated the range low down here at 17.6, came back up. Now we're touching this 25.2 level. Zooming into the 4-hour or even the daily time frame, it's like, okay, well, the daily stochastic RSI is sitting up here. Again, in a trending environment, just like what we had recently, stochastic RSI can just chill up here and get you wrecked until we visit high time frame areas of support. Now, if you would have been shorting this, you would have got wrecked. So again, don't diddle in the middle. I don't like playing the mid range, even from a high time frame area, unless I have a decent 4-hour range that I'm working with. So if I were to zoom in on the 4-hour time frame, this range, these tan lines that I have been pretty solidly respected, and I still haven't lost hope that we could go higher, considering that we're chilling at the range low. But if price action were to do something like this, right, this whole inefficiency will get filled relatively quickly, and it's more than likely that we're going to revisit this range, this 3-day mid range. And previously, when we did from like a range standpoint, if and when you were mapping out a range back in, you know, the early February, you would have been able to see that this is also a deviation of the range. So then potential deviation of the range, and then a 3-day mid level as support, and then also you have this area as support as well. That's pretty bullish, and then some confluence as well. You have stochastic RSI on the 4-hour, pretty oversold. Guts to overbought level, come back down. Sure, you're still not breaking that high time frame area resistance. Boom, rally. So this is something that I want to see as well. I mean, if we get down here on the 4-hour, and you know we get down to these levels and momentum still at this level of support, and we haven't broken this, then yeah, I would be pretty bullish, and it's more than likely that we're going to fill in this liquidity up here. And if I were to zoom out quickly, even though the daily looks ugly from like the stochastic RSI standpoint, if you pull out a volume profile real quick just to measure volume, you see that there's not a lot of volume between, you know, 25.2 bringing us up to 28.5. Usually, if and when this 25.2 level gets mounted as support, when you see volume gaps like this, price action will literally just come up, because this is also an inefficiency right here. If price action goes too fast down out with low volume, it's more than likely going to get filled at some point, and when it does, it's going to be an aggressive fill. Similarly to how this inefficiency here got filled pretty aggressively, right? So then that's what's concerning to me, considering that we're technically still in a range-bound environment. I'm of the opinion that, well, this is an inefficiency here, right there. This is also an inefficiency. Who's to say that price action doesn't do something like this? Get everyone super bullish, right? Fill in this inefficiency, come back down, re-enter the range, fill in this inefficiency, fill in this inefficiency, and then maybe this is our long-term range that we just chop in, and then everyone gets bored of crypto and no one wants to be in it, and then I don't know, maybe equities crash, or I don't know, some weird catalyst that brings us lower. I don't really know what yet. I've been hearing talks of war. I've been hearing talks of debt default from like a macro standpoint. That's not my specialty. I just watch the charts. And it seems like anytime we've gotten any inefficient move down, it's been sucked up by an inefficient move up. And I mean, here's another good example right here, right? And then you had this to mimic it, right? So it's about finding similarities in the chart. And then even this one got filled in aggressively down here, consolidated on top of this level, and then we moved up higher. So because price action loves to do this, right? High, or we have your low, your high, right? Then your lower high, higher high, right? This. But if we just do this, and then we do something like this, that's more like distribution versus accumulation. And then you see, oftentimes you see this. And a good example would be the Luna Classic chart. I remember at one point I was trading this, and it was a fun time trading it, but I got burned a couple times. But I ended up taking a short up here, so I ended up working out, closed it down here. That was fun. Went in with too much size, so it was a very emotional trade. But if you notice, price action had a very aggressive move up, right? Multiple times. Everyone's getting super bullish, goes up 400% in a year, or in a couple weeks or whatever. Deviates its high from the original point of inception, or whenever, or I guess that I don't really know when that time was, but deviates this key high, comes back inside, can't make it higher, and now what happens? Fills in all this inefficiency, and look where price action is now, right? All these inefficient moves eventually ended up getting filled at some point. Even this one, right? This guy gets filled. So what my biggest concern, especially with like trending coins like Optimism and Phantom, is that we're almost seeing the same thing, right? This is one massive range if you go to the 3-day time frame. Close that. We had our inefficient move down, inefficient move up, filled it, right? Now we're basically recreating what looks like the Luna chart, in my opinion. So now I'm sitting over here looking at this chart and I'm saying, well, this looks like an inefficient move, right? And if history doesn't have to repeat itself, but it normally rhymes, so I'm sitting over here like, well, this looks like an efficient move too, right? And this one got filled, right? So now if you go to like the 4-hour time frame and you're sitting, and I tweeted about this long, unfortunately I didn't get in it, but this is the range that I'd be watching for optimism, right? Relatively high time frame range, but look at to track momentum. I like to use the 12 and the 21 moving averages. Look at the difference between this down here, right, where we're just trending. Anytime we come or we deviate the moving averages, we always expand, and now momentum's in the side of the bulls, right? In a range bound environment, it gets a little choppy, right? Once price action starts moving up again, it becomes expansive. We're sitting at a 4-hour time frame and we're getting this, right? This weird chop. Technically we're still range bound. Now I could be completely wrong in saying that, well, the high is definitely not in and we're gonna, do this and see new all-time highs. But with the way the total market cap for crypto is looking and the way total 2 is looking, unless we break out of the range that we're in and we mount that range high as support, there's no reason for me to believe that this is going to happen. Especially, with the way with the way momentum's slowing down at this at a high time frame area, like when you zoom out here. So again, all I like to do is map inefficient moves to the upside and to the downside, and normally more or less times they are filled. And even stacks has been going parabolic, right? And this is great, but I'm sitting over here looking like, okay, well, I missed the move up, but this is an inefficient move up. Extremely inefficient. Now we did get some consolidation at this high time frame area of this high time frame mid range, which is great. That's what you want to see if you're a bull. However, once you start, let me just clear this chart up a little bit, make it easier to look at. Once you start getting to high time frame resistance, it's like, okay, well, it doesn't have to get to this $91 or 91 cents level or 99, but if and when price action does get up there and it comes back inside, your risk to reward for taking that short is significantly higher, considering it's basically, it basically just filled in this inefficiency down here, right? The original, when I first started hearing about the pump on stacks, this is my area that I would have been very interested in taking a short until you start seeing it mounted as support, right? Once you get a range bound environment on top of support, it's like, do I really want to play that game? And this is the 4-hour time frame. You zoom in on the 1 hour, the range becomes a bit more clear. So you have your even this would be it. Yeah, so last red close, resistance now, breaks out, key swing low, key swing high, becomes a support, never goes back down, respects the trend line as confluence, reclaims the mid range. Now look what happened. Basically mounted the range high, and now we're going higher. So then to me, this is another range that's being formed right now on top of the range that I just drew out. So we have your key swing low, key swing high, right here. So then you deviated this low, mounted the mid range. Now we're deviating this range. It's very possible that price action just does this, right? Takes out this key low, deviates it, comes back inside, and now boom. That's what I'm looking for a trigger on stacks. Because again, as long as we're range bound, as long as Bitcoin stays within the 25K area, and total looks the way it does, these pumps, these inefficient moves will eventually be filled, and we've seen it time and time again for altcoins. So that's kind of what I'm seeing in my thought process right now in the market. And even GRT has been pumping like crazy, or it pumped like last week like crazy for no reason. And it's like, okay, yeah, zooming out, go to the 3-day time frame, we tag this high, right? swing failed it, arguably. And then we were unable to make a higher high, and now we're forming a range here. Okay. Well, personally, I'd be very cautious buying spot for the long term at these levels, only because you have all this potentially to fill. And I could be completely wrong, and I'm open to it. Just doesn't, it seems a bit fishy, right? All this liquidity was just taken out. And now look at the way we're looking, right? We're struggling to get past this 19 cents level. I can do some TA on Samo too, and please, anyone, tell me to shut up. And if you want to go, I can keep going. But to me, Samo, I ended up closing out half my spot long just because I was a little concerned with how Bitcoin was looking. As long as we hold this level, and this is a key weekly level at 0.004, as long as we stay above it, there's still a chance that we go higher. Because again, I'd prefer to see a nice big close versus a wick to fill in this inefficiency. Because that's, I mean, Samo's a great example of that, actually. You know, I mean, eventually I do think that all this, as we all hope, right? We all hope that this gets filled at some point, you know, when liquidity's friendly and memes are running. But Samo, to the downside, has done a really good job at filling inefficient moves. Right? I mean, this is just straight up, was matched with straight down and some, right? What I do like to see about Samo, though, right now, is that for the first time, it seems like we're trying to range. You know, we're trying to, the big range that we're really respecting is this one. Oh. Right? This is the range. And if we just chop like this for the next year, right? We come down here, come back up here, do this. This is bullish, right? Because then it becomes high time frame accumulation, right? And that's what you want to see. And then whenever you see something like this, that's when, you know, you take this high out, you take this high out. And a chart that I like to compare this to from like an accumulation standpoint, I think was Naka. Yeah. So like Naka is a gaming studio that I like a lot, but notice how they ranged and they accumulate. This is classic accumulation right here, right? They did this for, let's say, 240 days, right? So this project, a lot of people might think it's dead, it's done, but look, right around the time where gaming started to pump, the AI coin started to pump, look where we are now. But same thing, right? We had an inefficient move up, straight up, and now we're forming what looks like distribution. Whales looking like they want to sell. And now we're approaching a high time frame area of what? Old support, flips a new resistance, cannot reclaim 36 cents. And we have this big green candle that just looks like one big gap. Charts don't like gaps. So that's my my spiel. I could go on and do some charting on like SPX. I can give you my thoughts on SPX right now. Yeah, I mean SPX again still range bound in my opinion. 3-day time frame. Stochastic RSI curling down, not really what you want to see. However, when you zoom in hard to the 4-hour time frame, we're sitting at this high time frame area of support, and you know, in confluence with this trend line. If it breaks, then it's possible that we see the lows. However, if it holds, we could gap fill up here and potentially go back up to 4,300. I'm not going to rule that out of the question. Considering the 4-hour stochastic RSI sitting at this low level as well. And I like to use Market Cipher B as well, mostly because it's kind of like a bougie stochastic RSI. Honestly, if you like if you remove like the green money flow and the RSIs that they have, anytime you see a cross, normally the Market Cipher B will tell you to either buy or sell. But I like to use it from I like to use the money flow as perspective. So like red money flow coming up, you start seeing, you know, you hit a high time frame area of support, money flows coming up, flips green, and look what happens, right? High time frame area of resistance, money flows coming down, comes down, right? So it's just a good way to track momentum, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I'm seeing SPX right now. I'm not going to rule out the possibility of us going up higher, but at the same time, if we lose this mid range and this trend line, it's kind of kind of a given that we're going to see range lows. And well, okay, well, high time frame area of high time frame point of control sitting at 39.59 as well, which is super good. So if we lose that, yeah, we're probably going to come down to the range lows at 30, come down 37 at some point. It's kind of what I'm seeing. So yeah, I kind of was everywhere on that. Did that make any sense? Anyone have any questions?
Nah, totally made sense to me.
Awesome. Well, yeah,
And
that's
then,
kind of what I got.
yeah, I'm trying to think if anybody else wants to hop in, feel free. This is usually where we start going, like, for lack of a better word, I would say like free form. Like, I believe last time the session went like 2 hours straight with just everybody chatting, going nonstop. So like, Ecam, if you wanted to hop up, GSS, not sure what you have. Mike, if you wanted to like take a stab at it, show some of the stuff you're working on, I'm sure we'd all be interested. But yeah, floor's open. And if not, Dennis, keep rolling.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody have any questions? I mean, I can do TN other charts as well if anyone wants to see anything. Matic has been an interesting one to me. Again, this is our high time frame range, right? We broke out above it, which is great. We rejected off this 3-day order block. And you know, if I wanted to zoom in quickly, as long as we hold this 3-day range high as support, it's very possible that we go up higher. And maybe this is our 4-hour range that we're going to hold here, right? Price action rejected off the mid range, tried to reclaim it on a lower time frame. On this 1 hour, this is your range, right? And that's why it's kind of confusing explaining ranges to people, because it's like you can have your 3-day time frame range, right, where price action really respects it for certain periods and then breaks out above it. But then when you zoom into the 1 hour, it's like, okay, well, if I was scalping, this is the range that I would be scalping, right? You have your key low, your key high, your key low, right? Or even back here, I would look and be like, okay, well, we just mounted this as resistance or support, key high. Now, in a trending environment, ranges are difficult, right? Range traders typically get wrecked because if you think, oh crap, price action is going to come back inside and I'll short, well, you would have got effed. You would have tried to short down here. It's like you would have also got effed, and that's where I think these moving averages help. It's like you only really want to short the range high when a moving average looks like we're forming, when momentum starts to slow down, right? So let's see. Near would be a good one, actually. I've been watching Near from like a 4-hour standpoint. Look at how comparison, right? You have your trending environment. Now it seems like we're getting this weird slowdown in momentum. And a lot of people might be like, well, this is bullish. And it's like, well, is it? We've just approached really high time frame area or area of old support, new resistance, and we can't manage to break above a certain level. So it's like, yeah, it could very well be bullish, right? Anything can happen. The price action does whatever it wants. But again, look what I was talking about before. An efficient move up usually gets filled. An efficient move up gets filled, right? This inefficient move down got filled up. And so, I mean, if I were to be purchasing Near, me personally, my area of interest would be down here at 177 from like a high time frame standpoint. Because maybe, yeah, I mean, this is perp, so I don't really have a lot of data to work with, but it's another good example. Wow, let's just do some ETH BTC. We could do that too. ETH BTC, again, sitting at this high time frame area of support, right? Personally, there's a chance that we do revisit 0.05, which would be a 20% drawdown on ETH versus Bitcoin, which could be pretty gnarly to be a part of. There's also a chance that if and when, remember, if we keep the total crypto market cap in mind, the range high is sitting at 1.18 trillion. We're sitting at I think it was 1.048, right? If we do indeed find support, there's a chance that we do revisit the range high at 0.08. If that does happen, Ethereum goes to like 2K, bulls are ignited, and this level probably gets taken out 2.24. I guess I didn't really do Ethereum. Yeah, I don't think. Again, same thing with Ethereum, just this large range that we're sitting in. And we bounced off the mid range. Now, what I want to see happen, I don't really like trading the mid range just because it's a bit more risky. And if I were to trade it, I would trade it with smaller size because if you noticed before here, right, you have a lot of wickery happening to the up and the downside. So I wouldn't want to take a long here, wouldn't want to take a short here. I guess this one worked out, but again, if you're going to trade the mid range, trade with smaller size. My area of interest for Ethereum would be come up here, tap this range high, get back inside short, or get back inside this mid range short here, because then you have a pretty clear area of invalidation. And same thing, the moving averages as well, starting to slow down a little bit. You're not trending like you were before on the way up, right? You have your moments of consolidation or chop, I guess, and then come back down. Now you have your trending environment again. So once the 1 hour and smaller time frames below that start doing this weird like, sideways thing from like a moving average standpoint, that's when I begin to get interested in looking for a short after such a aggressive move to the upside. Because I mean, we've been range bound since January 13th, right? Tech rallied, crypto rallied, but it's like, what's stopping us at this point? We basically bounced off the yearly open. We've gone up only for no apparent reason other than, I don't know, up for the sake of we went down for so long. It's time that there's no one left to sell. And it's like, okay, well, what if real estate goes bad? What if equities tank? Considering that crypto is just a liquidity play on the bigger markets, well, nothing's impossible. And if we do respect this high time frame range, wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum revisited 1,000 and potentially went lower. If I were to get a Binance chart on this, yeah, I basically have the same range drawn. Some trend lines. It's like, well, if we do fall back inside, right, we go below 1440 again, and we stay there. Well, this is the range that I would want to be looking for from like a high time frame area, from high time frame level. And that doesn't mean that we're going back to $90 by any means. It doesn't have to happen, but this is basically your mid range, right? So maybe this, and look what we have as well. Very interesting inefficiency sitting right here. Right? It doesn't have to happen, but man, it'd be kind of crazy if it did. We have inefficiencies up here too. But look, even this inefficiency down here got filled, right? This inefficiency got filled. This one got filled. They always get filled at some point. It's just a matter of when. And I'm not saying we're going to 2,500 and it's in the cards. But again, if I'm watching the 3-day time frame or even the weekly time frame on the stochastic RSI, last time we were this high, what happened? Down. We're here right now. Right? Last time we were this high, we hit 3,500 straight down. Bulls got excited. I mean, this is a beautiful example. This is your range right here. On a high time frame, bulls get super excited. Oh my God, new bull market. It's not over. Get wrecked, right? And even here, right? If I were to just delete all these, if I were to delete all this nonsense that I just drew. Look at this. Right? This is a range. Very, very high time frame range, right? This is more for like spot. Like you'd be very happy buying down here. Deviation of the range high. Boom, straight down. Now it seems like we're sitting at the old range low and we can't manage to get above it. That's not a good sign. That's not what you'd want to see if you're super bullish, right? Even if we did something like this, where it's like that would be the worst scenario. That would get everyone extremely bullish. Because if this is your range, this is actually a range right here, one that I hadn't mapped out before. It's like technically, yeah, we reclaimed the mid range. We could come up here, but look at the last time that we did that. Right? Everyone gets super bullish. Ethereum's above 2,000. Oh my God, new bull market. We've seen it before. This is just a longer period. And what, this would bring us to middle of June. Normally the stock market doesn't do well in the summer. So who's to say Ethereum and crypto doesn't follow, right? So yeah, I'm like, I am hopeful for the bulls, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I'm not. I struggle to be euphoric at this moment in time. So sorry if that poops on anybody's parade. What else have I done? I don't know if I've done TA on Soul. I know me and Rec have the same big old trend line here with Solana. If I were to zoom into the 4 hour, again, still range bound. Still range bound. I really was hoping, I saw this on Monday, I think. Yeah, and I was like, I want to take this short, and I chickened out. I don't know why, but whatever. Hopefully we get a retest of it, or maybe we even go to 28. That'd be nice, but because imagine, oh man, sometimes I wish I was a market maker because I would fuck with people so much. Just like, yeah, let's just do this. Break out! All of Twitter is just super, super crazy. Everyone's going long. Everyone's super bullish. Get wrecked, right? Would it be the first time? I don't think it's the last. And yeah, stochastic RSI on the 3-day, chilling at these high levels. It's like, okay, well, do you really want to be buying spot at these levels? I don't know. I don't know. Happy to be proven wrong, though. Happy to. And even, let's see, sold Binance. Actually, how's Sol BTC looking? Not a lot to work with, I don't think. Do I have a better chart? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I mean, even with Sol BTC, it's like, okay, well, if I were to draw a range out, this would be the one, right? We're just kind of chilling in. Very possible that we go higher, but we have this key area of old support, new resistance that we can't manage to get above. Yeah, man. Stochastic RSI kind of looking nice. Let's see what market cipher gives. Yeah, green dot, not bad. I mean, it's possible that we outperform, that Solana continues to outperform Bitcoin. But at the same time, I don't like this weekly up here from like a spot standpoint, like long-term bags. Again, significantly better odds of you DCAing now than before, or than in 2022, but still, man, something's fishy about all this. I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it. What about?
Just a quick comment, man.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong either. It's like I think this has happened before, right? Like this is if you look at if you're not even if you kind of extract yourself a little bit from even the TA and
Mhm.
well, not necessarily the TA, but even just going back through some of the like historical, in the 4-year cycles of Bitcoin, like this move has played itself out before. And it did almost the exact same thing at almost the exact same time. It's like, 1,064 days or whatever it was from like Pico bottom to Pico top in that cycle, and then like 363 days or whatever down. And it's like dude, this shit's happened like it's so many times. It's happened like 3 times in 3 cycles. Like it's pretty wild, right? So like and even you can even keep COVID in there, right? Like you can keep the
Mm.
COVID dip in there and figure look on your screen right now, basically this same, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, this same kind of U-shaped pattern. Yep, exactly, is actually right where you started. That is just right what's happening again. It's like uh again, we always say, hey, it may not, it might rhyme, right? It may not be perfect, but it's not unlikely. Oh damn, that thing's wigging out,
Yeah,
man.
I don't know why.
Yeah, it
Never
doesn't
happened
try.
before.
So
Weird.
super bullish now that you've drawn that on there, dude.
Yeah.
Because
New
I mean,
all-time
we're going to 3 million
Vertical.
in like, yeah, in like 3 weeks, guys. So
highs.
fuck DCAing. Like, let's just
Yeah,
get in right now. So
all
it's
in.
just, it's not uncommon that we revisit these lows, but it's pretty common that we have this run up, and it is like a fake out, right? Like we get a pretty good run up, and it's not a bad time to play that move, in my opinion. And that's kind of what I'm expecting, almost, is just playing that play up, and then we're gonna, likely see a play back down into like what you were saying, even into those inefficiencies. And we may not see a COVID like return, but it could be a slow grind down there too, right? And so I think, for me, it's still about playing the moving averages, and it's just my, one of my strategies, or pretty much my primary strategy. But it definitely coincides with what you're saying. So even though sometimes I'm sounding like, I'm bullish right now and we're making this move, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm full perma bull. This is the bottom's 100% in. It could just be kind of that fake out move, right? Or that play. Like we see that exactly what you just drew. Like we saw exactly that happen back in 2017 or whatever. We bumped up to like 13,000, and then even then. I mean, I played that. I was in crypto at that time. I played that same move. I was like, "Oh, dude, we're going back to 20 right now." And it was like, oh shit, and I just rode that thing all the way back down. And it was before I was really, watching heavily those moving averages. And had I known then, I could have saved myself a lot of money. But, is what it is,
Yeah,
live and learn. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to poke in for a second. Sorry to yap on your parade, man.
Yeah, I
no, no,
think
100%. I agree.
I think GSS was, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, GSS, weren't you were saying something pretty similar here about like the cyclicality of all of this. If I remember correctly, you posted a chart on Twitter the other day. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there.
Uh, sort of. I mean, I got my own personal view, and I got some charts too I can pull up to go through if people are still interested in doing this.
Yeah, please, please.
Cool. 1 second here.
Oh, and rec, dude, that's one thing I need to work on myself is my midterm game. Like I'm either leverage trading, but like my spot trading for, a couple weeks, like, if you would have rode early January to now, I mean, those are some spot returns that I kind of just left on the table because I was like, I'm not buying this move, you know?
Yeah, those are tough too. I mean, again, those are, I've done so much back testing on just some really simple strategies, and long term, like, they've played out really well for me. And
Mm,
so I can take a little bit of risk down here in these, where it gets a little choppy, and sometimes it'll eat you up. But it, when I sold it, God, I don't even remember what it was, 56,000 or something Bitcoin. Everybody said I was just retarded, I'm just like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm just gonna have to let this play out,
yeah, I guess I'm
and I
retarded
jumped
then.
back in a few times. Yeah. It happens, right? Like, and you're always going to get people to disagree, and you're not always going to be right either. So it's just, it's part of the drill. But it's definitely protected me. And when I saw that move, that 2050 cross that I always play, I was like, wait, that's my rule. I'm back in. And so I've caught a few of them, and usually when that's up, others are up too. So they're catching a little bit of a bid. That's why I say, as long as we stay above the 50 DMA, I'm short-term bullish for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what is the DMA? I've heard you refer to that a lot. I've never used it.
Oh, just the daily moving average. Sorry,
Oh,
just the
daily
simple.
moving
It's a
average.
simple. Yeah, the
Gotcha.
50 simple moving average. Just
Gotcha.
I put the 20 and the 50. Uh, Whoops, sorry, I muted myself. And when the 20 is above the 50, and the price action crosses and closes basically through the 50 and then the 20, and it lands and stays kind of on top. Just my in indicator. And I trade it all the time, and it's pretty awesome. So we can spend some time on it sometime if you want. I'm happy to do it, but just yeah. Anyway, I always play it. I just have an on off button basically, and that's my on off. But it's like a light switch.
For
Just hit
sure.
the light switch, turn the lights on, just ride it until the lights are supposed to go out again. When you get the signal for the lights out, you just, lights out. So usually I try to stay above, if as long as the price now that lights are on, the price has got to stay above the 50 DMA. I'll take anything basically within 2% above, 2% below, but that's it. Otherwise I'm out. So
For sure, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing.
thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Cool, awesome discussion. Thanks, guys, for sharing all the charts as always. Love continuing to just see everyone's different like styles and preferences and how they view stuff, and even just train of thought. I mean, that's like the whole point of this, right? Is just let's get other people's perspective and then try and find the right answer together. So thanks as always. I've got a few things that I'll go through. I'll try and keep this super tight. I think just taking a big step back and echoing what everyone else has said, like I'm super excited to see this pump too. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. I'm not personally banking on it going on for too much longer. I still think that 2023 is very much going to be a year of consolidation or chop solidation, as they like to say. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and I think people are going to get whipsawed to shit. This is like pretty routine from just the 4-year cycle standpoint, and I think also too, just given the macro setup and where crypto has been, it's a year after a year of a bear market, there's like a lot of consolidation. Generally, the trend is still like slowly up and to the right, but I don't think that we'll see anything meaningfully like parabolic and like ludicrous across the market until maybe next year and most certainly the following year. And that's also, I think, not just consistent with the 4-year cycle, but also I think consistent with expectations as far as the Fed slowing down and maybe even potentially cutting. And, that will certainly be a bull catalyst. And I think too, between now and like 2025, there is hopefully going to be a lot of like innovation that's going to taking place that is going to add this kind of element of new, fun and exciting momentum into the crypto ecosystem that will also pull out the same kind of bubble cycles that we've seen in the past. And also, I think people are really starting to forget about crypto. Like crypto, it's been almost like 2 years that crypto isn't really kind of cool anymore. And I always still firmly believe that you get bubble markets after everyone has forgotten about the previous bubble the several years before. So with that said, just looking at Bitcoin real quick, I like to keep it super simple. I like to look at charts more so from the standpoint of accumulation. I'm not really a trader. I like to trade in and out of stuff, like more of a longer term scale kind of setup, but that's just my style. And so one thing, looking at the weekly, I tend to look at some of these longer and shorter term simple moving averages. So as we can see here, and we talked about this last week, Bitcoin's been above the 20-week exponential and the 21-week simple moving average for about a month and a half now. And last week we tested 2 big key moving levels of resistance, the 50-week and then the 200-week, and we actually punched through both levels this week too, but of course weren't able to secure that as a close. So, my personal view here is like I'm just going to continue to watch these moving averages And if and when Bitcoin gets above them, I want to see them back tested and turn into support, and maybe take a run to at eventually getting above the light blue one, which is 100-week. So for now, like, I'm still expecting very much a continued rejection, maybe eventually a move back up, a retest, and hopefully confirming it as support. But by and large, I mean, it is like, it's hard to say. It's hard for me to look at this and not say that the bottom is in. Like, we're also above the 300-week. We're holding the 20-week, the 21-week, et cetera, et cetera. And that actually brings me to like my next point. I think one of the biggest things that people are sleeping on is like, yeah, you don't want to get too excited. But you also, I think you have to look at the bigger picture, and part of the bigger picture for me is saying that, not only are we going to have potentially a supply shock once the halving comes in 14 months, but we are starting to see still, hard to say we're seeing it, but there's most certainly an impact on the market price of Bitcoin, given that 67% of all outstanding Bitcoin hasn't moved in at least a year. We talk about this all the time. This is like the 1-year hodl wave. And so it's actually, I believe, at an all-time high, if not creeping up really close. And so I would love to see that number just continue to climb with time, and also Bitcoin start to drift up with it. I think, we talked about this last week, and you can kind of just get a sense for it by looking at the historic past cycles. But I think if we were to start to see Bitcoin trend higher, as well as the 1-year hodl wave, I'd feel bullish, where it start to, I don't want to say get bearish, but think about, trying to make a best guess as to when the cycle is going to come to an end. That would be if and when Bitcoin's climbing higher and the 1-year hodl wave is trending lower, i.e., there's people who are like, I've been holding this for a while, I want to start selling. It's not materially impacting price, but there is, smart money and long-term holders just looking to cash out and get out while they're still up. So yeah, nonetheless, really, really crazy to see this number. And I would suspect that maybe second half of this year, maybe we start to hit 70%. But bar none, people aren't selling into this. At least long-term holders aren't selling into this grind higher. So that gives me conviction that people do believe the bottom is into. We've talked a lot about like altcoins. I typically don't look at the Bitcoin dominance all too often. I know some people do. I think that on a long enough of a timeline, the dominance is going to approach zero, right? Just not zero, but it's going to continue to drift lower simply because there's more coins coming to market. So Bitcoin's going to be diluted to some degree. But I do think it is really useful to look at, maybe like in a 6 to 12 months kind of context, particularly right now where we're seeing alts pump. And so what we'll see as the latest data is there's almost kind of like this double top on BTC dominance. If this does start to, go to 43%, I would say like there's a good chance we're starting to see the most recent pump kind of lose momentum, and people are rotating out of the riskier alts and back into Bitcoin. However, part of me is also saying that we could be kind of at the point where there's a double top on this, and we're going to see altcoins pump pretty heavily. But yeah, right now, the bigger term trend since November of last year is Bitcoin has been slowly reclaiming dominance, and I suspect that this will continue. But when it stops, I think that will be, a good indication. Like once we stop making higher highs and higher lows, that'll be a good indication that the money is going back into alts, and that's like kind of the time where you should, if you're an active market participant, that's probably when you want to start saying like, okay, should I start rotating into some alts, and if so, which sectors? Which is always really tough to do, but as I like to say, it's one of the ways, catching that rotation. It's one of the ways you can make the most insane returns in crypto. But of course, like I said, not easy. We'll keep going here. Sol, my favorite. Looking at trading view here, and again, my analysis is very, very simple. Sometimes I'll draw just simple support and resistance lines. Sometimes I'll look at RSI, moving averages, et cetera, et cetera. But what has caught my eye is, and I tweeted about this, is Sol actually was able to get back above the 200-day moving average earlier this week for the first time in 400 days. we were trading above it back in January of 2022. And so that's like a really cool thing. But like as I tweeted, I was like, I suspect that we'll come back down and maybe we'll test the 50-day moving average, and it seems like that's still very much a possibility. But it is pretty cool to just see Sol trading between these two moving averages. I suspect over the next few months we'll get above the 200-day and turn it into support. And I think with that will come this golden cross that we've already seen in Bitcoin, where the 50-day comes above the 200-day. Those are like, kind of like 50-50 as to whether or not they are actually like having a material impact on price and sentiment. But yeah, I mean, for me, like if the Sol comes back down to this 22 level, the 50-day, like I think we could see something like that, and maybe a run up towards 30. But if this does happen, I'm totally going to be bidding that part of my long-term hodl bag. Do I have anything? Nothing really on the RSI. It started to mean revert, but I did like when I was looking at this kind of like downtrend, and when it did break up out of it on the 14-day RSI, I was like, okay, like maybe we could see like a little bit of a run. And of course we did. We went from like 20 to 28. So I think for right now, it's probably just like, still very much a decent amount of consolidation. I think we'll be like range bound for a hot minute, but yeah, if it comes back down to 20 or so, 22, 20, I'm definitely buying, and that will be part of my accumulation bag. I still believe that an $800 to $1,000 price target for next cycle top for Sol is very, very realistic. And I won't bore everyone with the details. Maybe we'll do that next week or some other week. This is where I'm going to go into some of the more like interesting coins that we've either talked about on the trader fades or are at least of interest to me. Canto, this is one that went from 6 cents all the way up to 80 cents over the course of this year so far. Totally missed it on this one. I'm not kicking myself over it because this is like a project that has just started to gain a lot of interest and momentum as of late. It's an EMV compatible L1 that takes, correct me if I'm wrong, Swick and Ekim, it takes, elements of the Cosmos ecosystem. It's run by guys who are former Ethereum devs, and it's a really interesting project. They did there's an interview on Bankless that recently came out. I would suggest people go check it out if you're more of like a fundamental kind of investor and want to understand it. But yeah, I'm looking for an opportunity to buy a bag here. Levels that I'm currently watching is just the 50 days, so that's at 35 cents. But I wouldn't be surprised too if like, I don't know, we could just come and retest these like range low and bounce off of it and slowly grind back up higher. That would be like 38 cents. But like I'm also not banking on that happening, only because when stuff like this happens, particularly like this isn't just like kind of like a no-name project that suddenly got like a pump out of nowhere. And I think this is where, TA doesn't do a great job. It's like, I think you have to take a step back and say like, this is a new project that went on an insane price discovery and it's got a lot of potential. And now it's on people's radar, and there's a natural bid that's just going to continue to exist that wouldn't prior to that. And it's like the cat's been like let out of the bag, so don't expect it, to come all the way back down and completely retrace its move. Like, the thing is already down 44% off of its high, and so yeah, I think that this is just a project that has entered some serious price discovery, and now it's finding its base. I am kind of looking at like this most recent setup, this most recent move, and kind of asking myself like, is this a bull flag or is this like a bear flag? I don't know, but it looks like we could see a big move one way or the other sometime next week. So I'm probably going to start biting at this a little bit over the weekend, but if it does come down like much lower, I'll definitely ape in size, relatively speaking. But for right now, I'm just going to be super patient on Canto. I like the fundamentals of this project a lot. RSI mean reversion, nothing here. No bearish divergence, unlike some others that I'll just show in a second here. Hubble, we talked about this one last week. I did a trader fade on this one. You know, my call, and I'm not a trader, so I didn't really trade this, though I probably should have at the time, was like, my call was, this thing has been kind of like in this pennant for a hot minute. It's been holding the 50-day for a little while. I think it could break up out of this to the upside, test the 200-day. It wicked to like, you know, from 9 cents to 18 cents on KuCoin. It's wicked up to 40 cents. I mean, it's a thin order book, so this is kind of noise in my opinion. But nonetheless, like, this is a project again that I still fundamentally like believe in long term. I think that this like move is kind of indicative of it getting on people's radar, and so like it coming back down to this 10-cent level is like kind of like a level I'm interested in accumulating again. And I think that this pop is like a good indication that this coin has the potential to just see some an insane move to the upside if and when it's ready to do so. But yeah, much like Sol, you know, just it's consolidating, it's finding its base, it's kind of smack dab between the 50-day and the 200-day. So, you know, probably a pretty good range to accumulate. Again, if you subscribe to the idea that the bottom for crypto is in, and you know you want to accumulate coins. So I'm a buyer at right around here, and we'll continue to buy down all the way into the 50-day. If it falls below it and struggles to get back above like anytime soon, I'll probably just give it a little bit of time to bottom out and find like new support. But love this one too. Love this project from a fundamental standpoint. Injective, another one that we've talked about on Trader Fade. I presented on this one. It is basically a DEX on Cosmos. You can do all sorts of things like spin up markets. They do like derivatives. There's a burning component to it. Also one that just went on an insane price discovery, went from $1.25 all the way up to 480 just this year. Holding above the 50-day, the 200-day, got a golden cross here. I like this project from a fundamental standpoint. I actually sold my bag. I bought it at maybe like $3 and I sold it like just a couple of days ago at like 318 simply because I don't like the setup. And I know I'm totally contradicting what I just said, is like I don't typically trade, but there are some instances where I'm like, I want to accumulate something. Maybe it's run a bit. I feel really, really confident in the setup of the chart, and so I'll trade accordingly or position myself accordingly. And so I just look at this one and say, like, I want to see it come back down to maybe like this $3 level. That it's hit a bunch of times, maybe even back test one of these moving averages like the 50-day. And then most importantly for me, that it's just like, you know, it kind of makes me feel a little sick to my stomach or a little concerned, is we've got a higher on price here, and then we've got a higher low on the RSI. This is like your textbook bearish divergence, suggests that the momentum is running out, or, you know, just isn't quite there. And I do believe that. I believe that this is a project that's on a lot of people's radars now. It's gotten some listings recently, and so I want to see it come down and like just find new support and chill for a sec. At which point, you know, I'm gonna be a buyer. My last one, Orca. I think everyone here knows, like, I love Orca for all sorts of reasons. More importantly, because it's just like the juggernaut of Solana DEX in trading activity. It far and away exceeds all the trading volume of its competitors and peers, and even like a central limit order book like Open Book. So I love this project long term, and obviously it's, you know, I don't want to say it's a leverage long on Solana, but if you believe the Solana ecosystem is going to get a lot of attention next cycle, I think a natural question people are going to say is like, what is like the DEX of Solana, or what are like the biggest DeFi projects? And it's unequivocally Orca, at least as of today. This is a name that in the past has done like these really weird, it's kind of thinly traded. It's a little bit like under the radar. There's some VC involvement, but it has like these really weird instances of where it just kind of nukes, right? Like this, and then like it pops, and then it like consolidates, and then it nukes, and it consolidates, and it pops. It nukes, it consolidates, and maybe, you know, it pops again at some point. I don't know. This is actually this name is, I talk about how I'm like kind of an opportunistic, like long-term or medium term like holder. This has actually been a name for me that I have traded like probably better than any other medium to long-term position. I remember this happening like June of last year, and it just got so low. And I'm like, this is probably VCs liquidating. I'm like, I'm just a buyer here. And I bought it and it ripped, and I sold like somewhere here. I was patient with it. It came down, it nuked again. And then I rode the same wave. I think I sold around like, yeah, a buck 10. And then I've just been buying around in at like anywhere from 80 cents to like 95 cents. And so, um, all things considered, like I'm looking at this range as like a really good kind of area to just be slowly DCAing. I think that there's, very strong case could be made that it goes back to an all-time high of like 28 bucks. So I don't know, that's like a 30 to 40x. I can't crunch the number right off my head, but this is like a coin again that I want to continue to just accumulate slowly with time. If it does pop meaningfully again, I don't think I'm going to try and do the same play and get cute with it. Only because my biggest fear in all of crypto is I catch like maybe a 2x, right? Or a 3x. And then you're like, you get too cocky and you just say, okay, like the run is over and it stops. It's going to stop right here and you sell out. And then it just totally goes against like what you thought and it moves in your face. And then you're stuck with the mental gymnastics of, do I buy now? Do I wait? Typically in that case, people start waiting and then it keeps going higher. And then you're like, fuck. And then you like force buy in. And then that's like, the top and you've just gotten whipsawed to shit. And so it's like, you could have just not gotten cute with it. And so I think the days of me being cute with Orca are limited here, if not completely done. And so, yeah, I like the setup, very much a continuation of past trends. I'm going to just continue to accumulate here, and I'm excited to see what else Orca does to continue to innovate and attract trading volume on Solana. That was a ton. I know I spoke really, really quick. I tend to do that. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them my way. If not, I'm happy to hop down off the podium here and let others chat, or we can call it too. I know we've gone for an hour and a half.
Hey, GSS, real quick.
What's
Not
up,
much
man?
of a charter, but just wanted to, come hang out with the Samo fam and liked all the charting that everyone did. CryptoRek, Degen21, yourself. Everything looked it well. So just wanted to say, appreciate you guys having me. And I'll probably come back next week as well.
Likewise, man. And, the feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for showing the community some love, coming in, doing the videos. Like they've been great. We love the brand that you're building too. So it's cool for you to come in and hang out with us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Likewise. Likewise.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Thanks, brother.
seriously.
We're gonna keep giving you some love on your YouTube channel, man. So you're doing a good job. Appreciate what you do.
Appreciate that, man. We all going to keep growing together. So let's do it.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Yo, GS, what was that Hubble pump, dude?
I don't know. It's a good question. Like honestly, I think it was my 2 cents is like this thing was already spring loaded from the jump.
Mhm.
That was kind of like my TA. I was like, it hasn't tested the 200-day in a hot minute. I could see it running up. And then I think it just being so thinly traded, that obviously had like an impact on it. People are super greedy right now. And so, yeah, it absolutely ripped. And I'd like to think maybe too, like, I don't know, like some of the tweets and content we put out helped a little bit, but
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a pretty wild move. Especially in KuCoin. I don't know who the fuck bid this thing to 40 cents, but uh,
I remember watching it happen, and I'm like, honestly, I don't even know if I would have been able to get out in time.
yeah, I don't know. Let's look at the 5 minute here. Yeah, so I mean, like, turn this off. Yeah, I mean, like it was just a quick wick, right? But still, like, nonetheless, this move up to 18 cents, like it's still There was about a few hours where it was chilling there for a second, but yeah, I mean, it's still like a very thinly traded younger project, but I like it. I like the name. I think it's a good like Solana DeFi play.
Oh, totally. I mean, Solana DeFi, I think, is just gonna do stupid gains over the next cycle. It's gonna be fun to be a part of.
The expectations are definitely low, which is nice. Now we just have to be able to meet some of those, or rather blast through them, which I think is possible. But I don't know. Maybe this thing bounces too. Like I don't see a ton of people do this, but I personally do, and it's tend to work. But like I like drawing support and resistance on the RSI for like the trend, and so it's interesting, here that it's maybe we get like a bounce and like another move up, and it retests the 200 and turns it back into support. This is like I don't know, I think a $3-4 million market cap, fully
Oh, it's a
diluted. Maybe
baby.
it's like 12. It's very small, so yeah.
Welcome to shitcoin land, right?
Yeah, the alts are small alts can definitely be fun and also very stressful to participate in, to say the least.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I have a range drawn up on that, and it basically tagged my range high. Obviously, went significantly higher than it, but if we hold 0.097, that's like my key area of support. If we hold there, we could revisit the range high potentially at like 12 cents is what I had. Obviously, we went significantly above that, but the close and the open of the next candle on the daily time frame is what I was looking at for Hubble.
Fingers crossed, man. Yeah, it would be. I'd enjoy that. It'd be nice to see that.
Yeah, seriously.
Where's
That's
my
great.
my computer is blowing up right now.
Yeah, did you guys the Fed minutes come out yesterday?
I believe so. I don't know. I actually, to be honest, I haven't been paying a ton of attention to trad markets this week.
For sure. Yeah, I
Um,
haven't taken the time to read it yet. I was wondering if anybody had any takes.
why is my computer not playing nice? Oh my God. I can't. Yep. Technical malfunction here, I suppose. I'll do this. I'll do one last thing before I shut up. So I guess just to feed us all some hopium, including myself.
Love it.
Like the where's the I
If it
do
has
my
anything to do with me getting a tattoo on my ass, please, I welcome it.
where's my extension?
I'm still with you, Dennis. We're in this together, man.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I got two projects for each. I got one project for two cheeks.
Okay.
Yeah, Samo and Babel. Those are my two.
Okay. I just got one right now, so that's all. I'm only in halfway, I guess. Maybe I gotta take the plunge.
Yeah, I told the
Yes.
guys in the Discord if Babel reached 100 mil market cap, I'll get a tattoo of the logo on my ass. We'll see.
I love it. Yes, my age-old Swick is probably gonna be shaking his head, but I love drawing the fib extension on Sol from top to bottom. The 1382, which is the same extension that Ethereum hit last cycle, implies like 1050.
God.
So, God, it'd be cool to see. I don't know, something over time. Like this is probably like a fucking whoa. This is probably like a 2025 like setup, but
The
Wouldn't that be
classic,
pretty?
the GSS classic. That's why he eats 2 cans of tuna.
yes, yeah. And so what I think this is like this would imply like like 1,000, I think implies like a $400 billion market cap. which I want to say that's what Ethereum hit last cycle. And
Do
so
you
yeah,
think
yeah.
with all the new layer ones and layer twos coming about left and right, does that make you more bullish on Solana or less bullish?
It's a great question. I think it's both. I think one, it's nice because it sets up the industry. It sets up Solana to like prove that, as great as Ethereum is and like the L2s, there's alternatives, and there's always going to be alternatives. And I think more L2s that come up, it's a great way for Solana to show it doesn't need to take that technical approach. And so people might want to just say I want to kind of own Sol too. I think where it makes me bearish is that, and this is kind of the same thesis I have for even Matic and Optimism, is the more and more L2s that come out, or more and more scaling solutions, maybe even an L3, who knows if in a couple of years if that comes out, the more scaling solutions that come out for Ethereum, it takes away from capital that could go into other projects, i.e. Sol. So that's why I'm not trying to get too hung up on this. Even the comparison to Ethereum is, you probably can't make it, right? Because when Ethereum had its insane runs over the past 2 cycles, the alt L1 space wasn't nearly as competitive, and L2s weren't really a thing, so there's just more money concentrated in Ethereum. So I'm a little mixed on it, but
Gotcha.
yeah, looking just at Ethereum, I'm looking at this on a different screen. Actually, so Ethereum's all-time high market cap was 550 billion. So for Sol 2, basically hit $1,000. It's 400 billion. It's got to be 80% of the size that Ethereum was at all-time high last cycle. You could probably make the case that Ethereum takes a run at $1 trillion market cap next cycle, or 750 billion. And just for some context too, we've talked about this. In 2018, Ethereum hit an all-time high market cap of 135 billion, and then of course it ran to 550. So it did almost a 4x in market cap, right? You do the same, you apply the same kind of 4x in market cap to Solana from last cycle, all-time high market cap, to now. So you do 4 times 78. Yeah, you get 312 billion. So maybe that's where I kind of come up with $800. Yeah, maybe 1,000 doesn't happen, but if you're just expecting the same kind of growth, and I think you could argue you could expect more, because each cycle there's just more and more money that comes into crypto. I think you can make a reasonable argument that $800 Sol is fair game. Same for 1,000, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think that's impossible, or I think it's very possible. No need to use double negatives. But what do you guys think about the AI narrative? Do you think that'll be the next speculative bubble in all of tech and crypto?
Is our boy Ekim still here? He's
Looks
muted.
like he is, I think.
might be AFK.
We might have lost him, but I know he's a big. I think he thoroughly believes in that. Actually, on the trade and fade, he did a pretty solid deep dive into Fetch AI, and kind of gave an example of how he kind of believes in that narrative, and they might catch a bit from it.
Is that the decentralized marketplace, or the AI marketplace, or something like that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it does. It does it operates markets using AI, and builds you the best strategy on how to use it. I believe, yeah, that's correct.
Cool. Yeah, there was
That's pretty
another
interesting.
one that I found recently called VAI, and I think, from my basic understanding, I didn't really do much digging on them, but it's Chat GPT, but decentralized, I think is what it was. Super small cap though. Hold up, let me get you the actual information. Oh yeah, okay, so first VFF AI regulated digital assets issuer, combining AI and blockchain to synergize AI assistance on-chain contracts and on-chain contracts. Yeah, super small cap though, 31 mil, so They definitely caught a bid though. Oh, what up?
I don't know where you came in. You'd be able to dig in there, but I mean, I think it's going to happen. We're already seeing it like in TradFi markets with Nvidia just going like operating like a meme coin today. What, it's up like 15%, maybe more. I don't know if it retraced since we've been on the call, but
I don't really follow stocks like that. But Nvidia, they're like chips, aren't they, or what? Like, what?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, like
Nvidia makes GPUs. Yeah, go ahead, GS.
oh no, I was just gonna say like so the whole AI craze is largely attributed to obviously OpenAI's GPT-3.
Mhm.
The way that they were able to achieve this insane like kind of AI breakthrough was simply because they have um and someone who is like an AI fanatic would say like GPT-3 actually isn't a huge innovation breakthrough on the AI front because what it is just like this company threw a fuck ton of data. I mean, they took basically the entire internet and they took a fuck ton of computational power and they've just trained these models like over and over and over again with a ton of with like a ton of memory. And so it's easy to get, it's not easy, but you can get the data component relatively easy, but to still do a lot of modern day AI, you need like a lot of computational power. And NVIDIA since like 2016 or 2017 has really done a full blown like push on creating cards that are tailored towards AI that have like lots of memory. And so they've been at that for a hot minute. And so I think yeah, this huge breakthrough has attracted like new interest in from people, from entrepreneurs and existing, tech companies, and so they're probably going to be attracting a fair bit of business. But
So,
as far as like what I think of like the sector thing, I mean, this is why like Ekim and Swick and I talk a lot about it, like it's the rotation is I don't know how much longer it lasts. I think like everything else, like eventually the money's kind of got to get sucked out, but uh yeah, I mean for the time being it's an awesome narrative and I don't have any exposure to it. I missed this one, but it should if anything serve a good reminder to people out there that those kind of insane rotations are going to happen, so you should really be thinking about like how do you prepare for them, or like what kind of news has to come out or world events have to take place for you to think that maybe there's a chance of that rotation occurring and getting in early. Like Chili's is like a social token platform for I think like sports and shit. And I didn't think of this. I actually used to own it last cycle, but when the World Cup was coming out, like that token and others got a shit ton of attention and it moved accordingly. So and maybe we're gonna start to see some of that too, like on the L2 trades with like Coinbase, for example, or maybe not. Maybe just Optimism was the only one who catches the bid, but I mean, these rotations are going to happen. They can be really frustrating, I think, especially in a bear market, because you just like the momentum isn't as strong as it would be in a bull market. But I mean, there's money to be made.
yeah, seriously. And then there was a lot of hype around GambleFi as well. Kept seeing that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people in the community. Like I know, I think Incognito and maybe like a few other folks. Maybe someone's actually even in the chat here who is like really bullish. But what is it? Is it Rubble? Is it RBL
Yeah,
or
Rollbit, I
RLB?
think is what, wasn't it?
Or wow, it's Rollbit. Excuse me.
No, you're
Um,
good. You're good. And then there was Arc too. That was pretty. People were pretty bullish on as well.
Yeah, man, missed both of those.
Yeah, same.
Totally
Started seeing
missed
threads
them.
written up about it. But I'm like, I wonder. I'm like, well, if these projects are still around next bull cycle, I'm assuming they'll perform well. Is that a fair assumption to make? I don't know.
It's hard to tell, man. I don't know. It's these are really tough to tell. I think for a lot of projects, what it comes down to is just how well of a job they do in staying relevant, and then also having money, which is vital to staying relevant. The biggest mistake that projects make is they don't do a good job with treasury management, and they'll find
Mm,
themselves in a spot where they have to weather a storm for 2 or 3 years, and they just don't have the money. whether it's to like actually continue building the project or even pay people, and so they just kind of tap out. So I would hope that Rollbit and others have used this opportunity for a pump to stack some cash. In which case, yeah, they could
Sure.
probably stick around for a hot minute.
For sure. I mean, yeah, because yeah, it's weird. I wonder, like, we're always trying to play mental gymnastics with the markets here, but like, what happens if we do enter a stage in the market where it's, we don't just bottom normally, like what happened with COVID, and then we just went up only for about a year and a half. What happens if we do just enter this like sideways chop for 3, 4 years? Very similar to like 2010, where we didn't really do much before the bull market actually started.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think it's always
What happens
possible.
to crypto?
I think my 2 cents on it is that the comparison I think to that early on in the game is a little tough, only because it's like now there's a ton of fucking capital. There's a lot of, relatively speaking, there's a lot of decent amount of VCs, there's a decent amount of family office money, there's a decent amount of individual like angels, there's retail, you have the onboarding ramps, you have the off ramps, you have all sorts of blockchains, different supported languages, and developers switching over from Web 2 to Web 3. With that, you have strong narratives. So it's like my personal view on it is I'd like to think within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll see innovation in a new sector, as well as maybe hopefully other existing ones. And that will be, hopefully coupled too with lowered rates or better macro conditions, like all in all, good catalysts for getting another repeat parabolic cycle. But there's no guarantee, right? Like I think at some point I could be wrong, like we can't keep having like these alts where you can get 100 to 200x returns on them. Like something's got to change. I don't know if that's on the regulatory front, but it just
You
reminds me
think
of like,
so?
yeah, I mean, it reminds me of like, asset classes experience this kind of stuff. Like the bond boom in the 80s. I mean, there was people who made like fucking hand over fist, like tons of money. And it was like a decade, 15 years of just like, and for a few reasons, but like the asset class just like people could make so much money like never before. And even like, equities too, and like the 2000s. And I don't know for sure, but my view is like at some point crypto can't keep being the same in wild parabolic machine that it is. But maybe that's like, maybe we have another decade run, or
Well,
maybe there just
can't
becomes
like
greater concentration into small, 100 projects as opposed to 5,000. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. But do you think it's possible that crypto itself develops its own like micro cap area where there's different sectors, similarly to the stock market?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I don't like, I mean, like there's OTC, like in equities, right? Where these are smaller cap, lesser well-known companies that are pretty thinly traded, and they can be pretty fucking volatile. I mean, that's where you have like the penny stocks, right? And shit like that. So like there'll always be like a segment of that, but I don't know. Like my view is that at some point, like we just can't, like there just can't continue to be insane alt runs. I don't know. I could be wrong. And the thing about this too, that the thing about crypto is vastly different from all other asset classes is, or even just like US stocks, is like crypto is a global market that is 24 hours a day, that it's not like segmented. It's not like only people in China can buy Chinese stocks, 5 days out of the week. It's kind of like anyone can come in and buy these things at any hour of the day from anywhere in the world. And so like the total addressable market, as I would like call it, or like the total potential amount of capital that this asset class can attract, I think can far and way exceed, for example, like US equities or Canadian equities or domestic municipal bonds or something of the sort.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you, honestly. Crypto eating the world essentially is a narrative that I genuinely believe in over the next 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, all I know is that the time is certainly going to come where I'm not 100% all in crypto like I have been for, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah. So how many total cycles have you been through, GS? So two?
Just
This is your
two.
second one? Okay.
Just two, yeah.
What was your first cycle like?
I don't know. I'm curious what others would experience for others, but for me it was I don't know. I think coming from traditional finance into crypto was almost a disadvantage because like I remember watching Ethereum go from 7 to 40, and I was like, the move is over. Like that, like it's done. Like this thing isn't going to keep running, right? Because like you see a stock go from 7 to 40, like one that doesn't happen, and then two when it does, it's like a biotech name, and it just will come back in, or it's something like OTC and it just comes back. And so I think for me, it was like it took me a long time to want to put any money in. It also was very challenging to put money in. Like Coinbase was fucked. Like it was so tough to put money in. I was living in New York at the time, so I also I couldn't use like a lot of places because they didn't have the license. Like I couldn't use Kraken, for example. But it was, I don't know, it was like I was reading white papers for ICOs. I think Paragon was one of them, which was like this, and the SEC actually charged them. It was like a weed token for distilleries who wanted to build in certain locations, and it was like a WeWorks meets like weed industry. And I was just reading this
Interesting.
stuff, and I was like, or like B token, which was this like Airbnb decentralized version, and I was just reading this stuff. I was like, none of this shit's gonna fucking work. I was like, this is so dumb. But like a lot of things in crypto, like that doesn't mean it can't go to the moon. And so I think I missed out on a lot of stuff. And of course, like I didn't understand. I was refusing to accept that the cycle was over and that it was a bubble. And so I think I didn't get like totally fucked up. I mean, I think I still made money, but it was, I definitely didn't like clean up. I learned a ton, which set me up well for the second cycle, and I did really well. But I also made some mistakes and could have done better. And so, as people say, like, it's usually the third cycle you clean up, but hopefully it's the second cycle. If you're surrounded by like really smart people who are, sharing ideas and sharing experiences and perspective, I think you can do really well in your first or second cycle. But I didn't have that. I was still very much solo.
For sure. Yeah, it sounds like I just got done with my first cycle technically, so yeah, definitely could have gone better, but did okay.
Yeah, that's why
Hopefully
we're
so.
here, right?
Yeah,
Gotta have people who have different experiences and insights and looking at different stuff, and also willing to smack you in the face and say, "Hey, dude, don't forget it's just a JPEG at the end of the day."
mm-hmm. Sell it. Yeah, nothing goes up forever, that's for sure.
Hey, hello.
Hey,
Hey, bro, good morning, GSS. How are you?
Ryman, what's up, man? Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm good. What about you, bro?
Chilling. We just went for damn near 2 hours on this market sync. I'm about to actually probably step away in a few minutes here and get something to eat and reset
Okay.
before getting back to the grind. But hopefully is all is well in your world.
Yeah, bro, actually, the condition of my country is worst now. Our country is gone bankrupted and we are struggling. And what you think, what will be our price target for the end of this year? What we can expect?
For Samo or
Yes, for Samo, bro.
oh, I don't know. And to be honest, I don't, for a few reasons. I don't give out. I don't really talk about Samo price. I think it's just too much of a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's others in here who will be more than happy to let you know what their price target is. But I just try and shy away from that stuff, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you, bro. Oh, actually, Sweek is also here.
Vicky, you here?
Yo, GS, I gotta hop out, man. I gotta go get some food and do some in
For
real life
sure.
work.
Thanks for coming through, man. Appreciate you sharing the charts. It was a good convo. Yeah, stay in touch. Come through again.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that said too, I'm going to step away and take a break. Thanks everyone for coming in. 2 hours. This is good. There's a recording that will get up ASAP, so keep an eye out for that. But
Okay,
of
bro.
course, feel free to hang out here and chat. Don't let me stop you. All right, fam. We'll catch you later. Have a good one. See y'all.
Okay, see you, bro.